In this video, we're going to focus on allowing our character to have more weapons and tools to select than just our default sword. We're going to make it so that when we're selecting the item, whether it's a consumable, weapon, or a tool, it's the only thing that the character is going to be able to use at that given time. This is going to allow us to move towards being able to harvest materials from rocks and trees and to add more weapons down the road. So we need to go into the item.gd, which we've created, and we're going to make this more generalized so that we can break this out into having a weapon item, a consumable item, or a tool item. So we're going to make this item a little bit more general, and we're not going to use this enum anymore for our item type. So we're going to get rid of a couple of these export variables that we have, and we're going to get rid of damage item type. We're going to get rid of the heal amount, and that is actually all that we're going to get rid of. But we're also going to get rid of everything inside of here, and we're just going to return false. So this is going to be a virtual method that we want all of our weapon items or consumable items or whichever types of items that we create. We want them to have this use method so that we can have separate functionality for how we're going to use each item. We can also get rid of the enum up here. So now we just have a basic item resource. So now we need to go create our weapon item and our consumable item. In order to do this, I'm going to break up the new structure inside of our items directory. I'm going to create a folder for consumables, and I'm going to create a folder inside of here for our weapons. So for now, we can move the health potion inside of the consumables and the pie inside of the consumables, and we can get rid of those two directories. And the first item that we're going to create is going to be for the weapon item. So let's open up that script. Let's give this a class name of weapon item, and then we want to make sure that we're extending our node of item, or extending our item class, that is. And then we're going to have a few export variables here, which are ones that we've deleted from the other ones. We're going to have a damage variable for integer, which is just going to default to 1. And then we need to create the use method, which takes in our character, and it's going to return a bool. And all we're going to do here is we're going to get the character. We're going to go into our state machine. We're going to change state and then bring it to attack. So all of our weapons, whenever we use the weapon, are going to go to our attack method. And right now we can return true. So let's duplicate this actually, and we are going to call this one our consumable item. So let's bring this up, and instead of it being a weapon, we're going to make a consumable item that still extends item. We don't want the export variable for damage, but we do want an export range, which is going to be 0 to 100, and this is going to be the variable that we previously called heal amount, and that can be an integer that defaults to 0. And we're going to have one more export variable, which may or may not come into play right now, but we can call this effect duration, which is going to be a float and 0.0. So we might have some consumables down the road that make you walk faster, for example, and we want to have that effect for a certain amount of time. So now we can get rid of this right here. So we're going to check if we have a heal amount that's greater than 0. Then we return character dot heal, and we pass in the amount. If we don't get to there, we go false. Sorry, this shouldn't be amount. This should be heal amount, and that will get rid of that error. And so now that we have these broken out, in our standard character, he's always holding the sword. I want to make it so that he has to walk into his house and pick up his sword, and it has to be in his hotbar inventory that he can select so that he can actually use it. So to kick this off, let's create a new resource here. We are going to inherit from the weapon item. We're going to call this our sword. Let's open this resource up here. Okay, for whatever reason, I had to reload my project in order for the sword or the weapon item script to actually give me what I wanted here. So you might have to do that as well if you're not seeing all of these properties in the inspector panel. So we're just going to fill this out like we did before. We're going to call this sword. give it the name of sword, and in the icon, we're going to use an atlas texture here. We've done this before, and we're going to go into our assets, we're going to go into the items, and in this items.png, we are going to find, you can choose whichever sword icon you like. I am just going to use this one. In description, a basic sword. It's not going to be stackable. We can have what? And inside of our animation prefix, we want to include attack. So now, like I said, I want our character to pick this up inside of his house. So let's find that level. We're going to open up our character house, and then we need to get an item pickup. I'm going to drag right over here. And then in this item here, we're going to quick load, find the sword resource, hit save. This is populating below our tile set right now, so you might have to go into the ordering and bump the Z index up by 1. And now when we go play this, we can walk into our house, and then we can pick up the sword, and it goes down to the bottom here. So I still don't have to select it. Nothing changes here, which is not the functionality we want. But now we can actually pick up our sword. And this will allow us to, in the future, have multiple items. We may want to extend this hotbar so that our character can hold more than just 4 items in the hotbar. We can tweak that further down the road. So now that we have that done, we need to convert the other consumables to this new structure. So let's go back up to our health potion right here. And instead of this item script here, we need to pass in the consumable item. This keeps most of the same stuff for us here. It does get rid of the heal amount though, so you can just replace that. And we are going to have to recreate our icons. We will only have to do this one more time. So this will set us up better in the future for creating consumables. So now that we have that, let's go do our pie as well. Let's give this a consumable item. Give this a heal amount of 20. Let's give this an atlas texture, and let's go find it in our items here. Okay, so that is all well and good. Let's just make sure that our character can, let me get my character scene. I had previously turned off my health bar. I want to just make sure that we can still use all of our items as anticipated. So let's go take some damage from here, select our pie, right click, I still heal, select our potion, right click, and I can heal. So that's good. Everything is still working as intended, but we can still sword. We don't even technically have our sword picked up, nevertheless selected. So to get this working how we want, we're going to have to make a couple of updates to our inventory and inventory bar scripts first. Then we have to move into some state machine corrections. So let's first head into our inventory script here. And we need to create a new variable, which is going to be our active slot index, which is an integer. We can default to -1, so we're not going to start with a slot selected. And then we need to create 2 new methods. I'll actually create them up here just so it's easier for us to follow. We're going to have getActiveItem, which is going to return an item. And then we're going to have setActiveSlot, which takes in an index, which is an integer and does not return anything. So inside of getActiveItem, we're going to check if the active slot index is greater than or equal to 0 and the active slot index is less than the hotbar slots. We return the items at the active slot index and the item. So that's how we're going to get our active item. In the set active slot, all we're going to do is set our active slot index equal to the index, and we're going to admit our inventory changed signal. So that's all that we have to do there. Then let's hop over to our inventory bar script, and we have to make changes to our select slot method and on inventory changed method. So inside of our select slot method, we need to update this if else block. So right below the selected slot, we're going to get our inventory and set the active slot to -1. And in the else, we're going to just do the same thing on the inventory, set active slot, except we pass in the index here. And that's the only update that we have to make right now there. in our onInventory changed, we just have to add a clause at the end, or a statement at the end, still inside of this for loop, where we go slot. We're going to set selected, and we're just going to do I equals double equals selected slot. Now we need to do some minor updates to our attack state and our state machine, but I also want to clean up something quickly inside of our character. And let me show you, inside of our state machine, we have this long text string getting a specific node. I think it's going to be easier for us to handle this by if we go to our character here, and let's just create onReadies for our inventory bar and our inventory backpack. So now we can go back to the state machine, and instead of this long get node, let's get rid of that. And our slots now can just be, we can get the inventory bar since we have that as an onReady from our character, and then we just get the slots. So I think that simplifies that a little bit more, definitely a little bit more readable than trying to figure out what we're getting the node of with that long string. So I think this is better for us. We also want to make sure in this change state, like we are here, doing some checks to not change our state given certain states of our character. We need to add another one for if our new state name is equal to attack. We spell that correctly. Then we need to get a variable that we're going to call our active item. And that's going to be equal to the game manager characters inventory, and then we can get our active item. Now that we have that, if we don't have an active item that is a weapon item, then we just return. We don't want to attack without a weapon item. Now we need to go into our attack state, and we need to update our enter method here just as another way for us to make sure that we're not going to attack. So we're going to get a variable for the active item. Again, it's going to be the same way that we just did it. So we get our character, the inventory, and then we get our active item. And then if our active item is a weapon item, we're going to move all of this into this if block. And we're also going to default a damage value in case we aren't getting one. We should always have one, but just in case, we're going to set a variable of damage equal to 1. So this can be our default damage. And then after we set our attack direction, we can go into damage and set that equal to our active item dot damage. And that needs to be an equal sign, not a dash. Okay, so let's test this out. So we can play this. Okay, it's telling me I didn't get the inventory here, so I also need to go back to our character, and not just the inventory bar and inventory backpack, I also need the onReady for our inventory. So let's reboot this up. Now I'm clicking my left click. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but nothing's happening. So can't use these items. We don't have any lost health, but now I have my sword. I can still click, I'm not using it. And if I press 2, I can start swiping my sword. So I think this is going to allow us to much easier expand to add new items. When we have tools and everything like that, we're going to start adding animations for our pickaxe, for chopping trees, and stuff of that nature. So I think this sets us up properly for future videos. I know I've kept talking. At the end of every video, I say, in the next video, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And I very rarely actually do what I say I'm going to do, so I'm going to stop doing that. But I do plan on extending this, and I do want to add different tools for us to start using, like a pickaxe and an axe, in the next couple of videos.